No, yeah,
Just
we
do that at the end. of
Yeah,
all
we
that.
kept from the questions and comments from the first work session on August 30th, we kept a tally, and we'll, when this comes back for the 2 readings for the ordinance, in the cover memo, we'll list all those out
Yeah.
and address the questions, and then for the second reading, we have to have a public hearing anyway, so
Right.
if there's any questions from the board, we can, about the responses of staff or how something was included, we can respond to it at that time.
Perfect. All right. So I think we left off at signs, if I remember correctly.
That's
all
correct.
right.
Yeah.
And I think that we were just going page by page unless you had anything that you
No,
wanted
that
to
works
go over.
for us.
So
Yeah, but Christine's got a good question. How do you want to handle trustee Skumax's list? Do you want to just, as we go through?
yes, if someone can keep me on
Okay.
track of what page that she had questions on somehow. I will do my best, but so I think I'm working off the red line copy.
Her first question is from page 102.
Yeah.
And if we're starting on 106, maybe we should address the first one she has.
I'm on 99. Is that
I'm on
right?
99.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go by her page numbers. I would go by the sections. She lists 16, 19, 60.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So we'll use that as we go through.
Okay.
But we'll probably be there shortly, I imagine. So.
Yeah.
So does everybody have the same page number, 99? So I don't have anything on that page. Anybody? Or 100, 101.
On 101, I have a couple of
Are we going
things.
off the red line or the?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
On 101, under 16, 19, 30, number 2, the flashing or moving illumination, I have a note. What about the Town of Superior info sign? Are we in violation of our own laws?
There's an exemption, I think, in the page before, which I think would be 3, the official signs erected by state or local governments.
1690, 16, 19, 20, 12.
Or 12.
Oh, there you go. And then under 161940A, we've got vehicle signs on vehicles being operated in the normal course of business. So should one of those vehicles be eliminated? Signs on vehicles being operated in the normal?
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, vehicle signs on vehicles.
This is
Vehicle.
the nail salon that has the sign on the side of their car.
Right.
But why does it say vehicle signs on vehicles?
Can we just say signs on
I guess
vehicles?
signs on vehicles.
Yeah, I think what you were trying to get at, though, are, the pizza delivery triangle or
Your comment is
a
just-
magnet on a door.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I don't think the banner on the side of the parked car pointing to where the nail salon is would fit within this description.
Right. That's what we don't want to have happen.
Right.
Right.
Have them just park there.
Are vehicle signs, is there a category of signs known commonly as vehicle signs?
That's just how we titled that section, I
Oh,
suppose.
if you read it a little bit different, you say vehicle signs on vehicles being operated in the normal
Right,
course.
like
It
there's a
depends where you
classification
put your
of signs.
post.
As
Okay.
opposed to a
Vehicle
bicycle sign
signs.
on a vehicle?
Yeah, or,
Right. Or a billboard on a vehicle.
okay. Well, it's not a big deal. Enough discussion, we can just leave it, as long as it's not confusing anybody else.
Anything else on 101? 102? Let's see, so Lisa had, what is an example of an allowed instructional sign on a residential yard? So where would that be?
It's 60B.
What the heck? My red line is not matching up with
Now,
yours.
depending on how your viewer shows up, your page numbers might be
So
different.
we're at,
Well, no, I'm looking at the red line. It says page 102. That is not where you're at.
no,
See what I mean?
yeah.
Never mind what page number I am here.
Yeah, because I think we end up at 180.
So,
Well, we're at 161960, if that
Thank
helps
you.
you.
Yeah.
yes, it does. I think we better go by section numbers or I'm going to get
So
lost.
this instructional signs, is that like beware of dog?
Well, in the definition, I think it clarifies it for you. It's, it says a sign that is purpose secondary to the use on the lot and that is intended to instruct employees, customers, or users as to matters of public safety or necessity such as parking requirements, location of regulations pertaining to specific activities on the site or in the building, including erecting a sign in the by a public authority, utility, public service organization, private industry.
Where are you? I'm
But her
sorry.
question-
I'm in definitions, sorry.
Of a sign.
Yeah, for instructional sign.
Oh.
But she's saying, when is it, where would it be on a residential yard? How would that be used on a residential yard?
Yeah, what is an example?
I suspect you're right. I think it is the beware of dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on 102 or 16, 19, 60 is where we're starting?
Yep.
So I had on, what was my 103, signs on residential lot schedule. It just seems like that needs to line up
Yeah.
for formatting
yeah,
on the next time.
I've got one above that.
I do too, actually, but go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead.
Mine had to do with for residential lots greater than 5 acres with street frontage of 400, one additional temporary sign. Actually, let me think about this. I wrote these a while ago, so go ahead and have it ask your question. Let me just remind myself of what I'm.
So for Deborah's purposes, I'm at 169060.
Thank you.
C, 1 and 2, under temporary signs. One says, one temporary sign of 4 square feet in an area or less is permitted on each residential lot for up to 45 consecutive days. 2 says, temporary signs shall not exceed 8 feet in height and 6 square feet in area and shall be set back. So you seem to have I'm reading a contradiction there. One says 4 square feet in area. The other says 8 feet in height and 6 square feet in area. Those all seem to contradict to me. The only way an 8 feet in height can be 4 square feet in area is it's only 6 inches wide. So, and then the 6 square feet. So how do those all jibe?
Well, I think we would revise, depending on how the board feels, but I would say revise section 2 to be 4 square feet, and then, whatever we think the maximum height should be.
You mean item 2?
Right.
Number 2?
Yep.
So, yeah, this is residential signs. 8 feet in height seems really tall
Yeah,
to me.
we don't allow fences to be higher than 6 feet, so.
Right.
Right. That needs to be revised.
So we'll revise that.
Okay.
Note it when we
Okay.
bring it back to the reading of the ordinance.
I think mine had to do with election signs on, so same section C, this is 5. In another part of the section, I think that we said during an election season, you could have one for each election question. So is that? Oh, it's in 4. Okay, thank you. I think I've answered my own question.
Right, yeah, number 4 above it?
Yep,
Yep.
right. Thanks.
But if you go over to the table that follows,
Uh-huh.
the rest of the signs on residential lot schedule table, so Matt, those under instructional, we've got 6 square feet with a maximum height of not applicable, and I think we need to throw in a maximum height on that, because you don't want a 6-foot-tall sign there by 1 foot width, do you?
Right.
Okay. And then under temporary, we need to do the 6 square and 8 feet, as we just discussed.
Right.
And election maximums, according to my election binder, were 3 square feet, 1.5 by 2, right?
Correct.
18 inches by 24.
That's in the right-of-way.
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
If I put an election sign in somebody's yard, can I actually have this 6 square feet of area? Can I have a 2-by-3 sign in their yard?
Well, we were looking at revising that to be 4 square feet, I think.
That's even larger than now. Now it's
Right,
3.
Yeah.
So I could have a 2-by-2.
Unless we want to make it just uniform throughout what we have, but the thought, I mean, we could do that to make it easier. So 3 square feet is right of way, and right now the code is slightly larger for residential properties.
Are we changing that maximum height of 8 feet or not?
Yes.
We are? Because when you're selling a house, there are some signs that are almost 8 feet tall when you're selling your house. And I'm trying to think of this one realtor that has like a very
70s.
glorified sign that's, full wood and,
I don't know.
you know what I'm talking about? And it's really, really tall.
Yeah, it's like a wood post, and then the sign hangs underneath it, but the
Yep.
wood post is really tall.
And
Well, it's going to.
that would violate this then, if we change the maximum height. I'm
Well,
just
there's another
thinking-
provision in here for real estate signs.
Okay.
I see your point, though. It could
It's
be
a
8.
residential lot.
It could be 6 square feet, but 8 feet, or maybe not 8 feet, maybe 6 feet tall or something. If the sign was hanging at 6
Right,
feet.
yeah. Sorry, my phone's.
I don't see it being 6 square feet, though. I mean,
Or
how,
4.
how
You
do
know
you?
what I'm saying is it's not.
Right.
If it's,
It's
if it, let's say it's 6
not 24
feet,
square feet,
if
I
it's
guess is
6
what I'm getting
feet
at.
tall, and even if it's just 2 feet wide, it's still 12 square feet unless you,
No, but I think
But the real estate sign is
Real
not
estate sign
that
is
big.
like
The area of the
this.
sign itself is small.
and then there's a post
Right.
that's 3 feet
So
below.
do you
it,
count the
doesn't it?
post as part of the sign, though, 8 feet tall?
Good question. I think you're talking about the area of the sign, but I would not consider the post part of the area of the sign.
yeah, I didn't either.
But you didn't either. Okay.
Would I?
So,
But this says how far it can be off the ground, too,
Right.
the sign, and so that thing would be in violation because it's more than 6 inches off the ground or whatever, that sign part.
Let us take a look at that, go through this sign section and make sure they're all consistent and then bring it back
Yeah.
for the board's review.
Throwing out another one on that same table, window, the far right column on duration, where it says NA, can I actually really have a 4 square foot sign in a residential window forever?
That's how I read it.
Yeah.
Although I wonder if the covenants would control an HOA.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, somebody in original town could.
Or Sagamore.
Or Sagamore, yeah.
Really?
But 4 square feet, this is not a big sign, but, I mean.
2 by 2.
Yeah.
Sort of big.
yeah. Does anyone here from the HOA happen to know what the rules and regs for the HOA is on that?
They get a letter for that. You're not supposed to have anything like that.
Okay.
So if you're looking at this thing, I guess I'd say make sure that the height is clear about what you're
Yeah.
talking about. and that the sign it has to be, whatever dimension that we decide that we want it at, but that would allow for the real estate sign that you mentioned, because there are a few of those in the community for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so that was on page 104, which is 16970, and I circled, and I think it's the same issue. The building wall sign shall not project, yada yada yada. The top of the sign shall not exceed 15 feet. So I think if I put that all together, that just means where the top of the sign can be, but not the total height of the sign. The vertical elevation, I guess, might be more accurate of where the sign is, and not the height of the total sign. It seems like it goes between 12 feet and 15 feet. Is that how I'm reading that? I think it's the same sort of issue, trying to figure out what.
So, let's see, what's looking for certification, have a minimum height.
I have to say, I don't understand that minimum height to the bottom of the sign
Right.
of 12 feet. What does that mean?
I think it can't be lower than 12 feet, so you can't, but one, do we care, and is it just saying that it starts at 12 feet and you have a maximum of 3 feet? I mean, is that,
I'm just rereading this again. So from the ground to the bottom of the sign, it's a minimum of 12 feet. Yeah, so,
I mean, that's how I read that, but then
Yeah.
it goes on to say, then the second story signs, which, how can you have a second story sign if you're capped at 15 feet? So,
mhm. So we'll take a look at that section too. I mean, and try to clarify
what we're trying to say.
Yeah, what we want in that section.
Basically, I think you don't want to walk past a sign at head level.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the.
So that's going to be
concern.
12 feet off the ground as the
Right.
bottom of the sign.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But then we have to clarify what exactly we're talking about on the second story. Or potentially there'd be multiple stories, right? Depending on where this might end up being.
Correct, yeah.
So
Yeah,
probably don't
I
want
mean,
to say
that-
second story, probably say the,
Top floor.
top floor or whatever.
Has to be.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't make too much difference because we don't have any really non-residential property that wouldn't be PD, but I guess we should probably be consistent.
Yeah, because the PD is going to have sign criteria.
We'll have a sign criteria in it. Although it says if it doesn't have a sign criteria in it, then these control, so.
Right, yep.
And this is different than commercial? Signs on non-residential?
No,
This is everything but
Yeah.
This is,
residential.
okay.
Yeah.
So that would be a good one to work on.
Okay.
Anything else in that section? I think I had.
Next page, Lisa has what is a pan channel sign on in section 4,
Yeah.
page 105.
But before that, it looks like she's got a question underneath that might pertain to subsection C. 161970 A2C, projecting building signs. Looks like she has a question as to whether
Projecting signs.
you might need to address projecting signs that change the visual.
Where are you?
If you look
Back where we
at,
were.
it's on
A2C.
signs on non-residential property, section 16/1970A, which is building signs, 2 location, sub C, talks about projecting building signs. And she's got a question on projecting signs that
But-
seem to change the sign on a regular basis.
Is that what a projecting sign is?
I think they're the ones that when you walk down Main Street, they hang over, they have the cobbler sign. That's how I think
Oh,
of
They
it.
okay.
project
They
outward,
project outward
Okay,
from.
but they
Not
don't
really
project a
projecting.
slideshow.
No, no, yeah, not right. It's not
So
a.
what projecting signs is she talking about?
Well, I'll tell you what she's thinking of. When you go in Denver, there are signs
Yeah,
on the
like
street
people
that
with
Slide
rotate or
projection.
change.
Oh, got it.
No, yeah, that's
Yeah, no,
what's meant here.
Okay,
yeah, no, I think this is the cobbler,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought they were.
Projecting signs.
You're right, yeah,
I don't know if they're called something else in some other code that,
yeah.
But she does raise a good point. Do we deal with the ones Deborah just described? That
Are
ones
those
that,
growing in use? They are in big cities,
something about,
so I don't know about here.
What kind of sign did you mention?
Well, it's a digital sign where
Yeah.
it changes,
The
every
image.
minute or 30 seconds.
And it's projected on the building. You can see the little projector kind of up, and then it changes. People have them sometimes
Oh, right.
reflecting
Yeah,
on their
that's-
garage or the side of their house for Halloween or Christmas decorations.
That's covered in the.
I think it's in the prohibited one, isn't it?
That are not allowed,
Light sources that aren't
Okay.
shielded.
Okay.
yeah. So I think we're-
the point, however, is well made, because this is a changing field, maybe in C, where we just, the projecting building signs, 70A to C, are you seeing where I am, projecting building signs? Maybe simply changing that line, building signs that project outward from
Yep.
the face of a building or whatever, so that in this age of digital signs, we establish that we actually mean project outward,
just for further clarification.
right?
Right. And they talk about it sort of a little bit in B, but that's the one that we need to work on.
Okay. Okay.
And then she did have pan channel signs, so.
Yeah, and those
Do we
are.
have one? I'm
Those
trying to
are
think
what
of
you
one.
see in the marketplace. They're individual letters in a metal box with covers on them and neon lighting inside. That's your pan channel letters.
My question on that one, it doesn't seem like if that's the right formatting here, because we have building signs, size, location, number, and then a specific sign. Format seems kind of odd. If you just read A, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, which is like a specific sign.
Oh, right, yeah, that does seem out of place.
So I don't know if that goes under some other location or.
Right.
Anything else on that section? I guess I do on the next page. And- So I'm on 106 and it's still in 16,970. This would now be B4. Height, and it gets back to the same thing. Freestanding signs will not be more than 10 feet tall. It just seemed like that was a bit tall. So I think it's all related to the previous discussion, so we just need to figure out how high is high.
Okay.
So I was thinking 6, but that was just what I thought might look the best, but
Yeah, 10's a little high, isn't it?
it seemed like it.
Going down to C1, under size, changeable copy sign shall not exceed 20 square feet, which may be allocated as 10 square feet per sign face, or 20 square feet on a single face sign. This is one of those why do we care? What are we trying to regulate here?
So I think the signs we're talking about is, if you, where would it be? I guess Superior Elementary has one. where you
Yeah,
Change the,
and,
go up and change the copy on it, so
yeah.
it can either be, if you have a double-sided sign, then it can only be certain big, but
But functionally, why do we care if both sides, if you have a 20-foot sign, 20-square-foot sign, and you've invested in it, why do we as a town hall care if they've got messages
it's
on both
double-sided,
sides of
right.
that? To me, get the coming traffic, get the going traffic, and why regulate it?
Well, you limit the size of the sign that way,
It's got to have two sides.
right.
It's just whether or not one side can be functional or not. We're limiting functionality here by making only one side of it functional if it's 20 square feet. So I'd say let both signs be functional, get double whammy. So unless I'm missing something.
yeah, although I'm not sure I've ever seen a double-sided sign of that version.
Yeah, typically they're single-faced.
Maybe because we say they can't exist.
No, not in town, I mean, just in general, I think.
These
that
are freestanding signs, though, correct? That we're under here?
Changeable copy signs.
No, it's under freestanding signs, right?
B,
Yes.
C, no,
No, it's its own,
its own category.
Okay.
yeah, it's its own category.
It could be freestanding, though,
Okay.
Or it could be on a building.
or it could be on a building.
No, it is under freestanding. Look at B over on page 105.
No, it's changeable
C.
copy.
This is C.
B. I thought
1,
that
2,
too.
3, A, B. Where am I?
C.
Maybe
106.
C. Oh,
Which is the next category.
doesn't the,
No, this
on
makes sense to
105,
me.
doesn't B freestanding signs control size, location, number, height? Oh,
4 or 5.
Yeah,
and then
I'm-
next-
I'm
and then
sorry.
next section.
Yeah.
Which is, I
Okay.
think this is where the pan channel
Yeah,
signs
it's
goes
changeable
in this-
copy signs,
in
correct.
this category.
Yeah, if it was under freestanding signs, it would not make sense. Because a freestanding sign is two-sided, period, no matter what. I mean, it's freestanding, correct? So, under changeable copy signs, it has nothing to do with it, whether it's freestanding on a building or wherever it is.
Right.
So that's why it's clarifying shall not exceed 20 square feet, which may be allocated as 10 square feet per side.
but it can be freestanding still, right?
Yeah.
But it's saying on the next on 2 that it shouldn't be empty. Is that correct? The message should always
Right,
show,
yeah.
it shouldn't just be an empty sign. I mean, what's our reasoning for that? Just being that it has poor aesthetics, or
Yeah.
looks like it's abandoned?
Well, and my point on the rest of 2, shall not be changed more than 4 times a day, why do we care about that as well? If we want to change the sign, we have this freestanding sign out there, and let's say that
Yeah.
we're on school property, why do we care how often we change it?
I couldn't tell you why that was included in the.
So on both 1 and 2, I'm asking, why do we care?
Too many rules? Yeah.
I think we're
I think you could
regulating
probably just
something we
get,
don't
you
need
could
to.
probably get rid of 2, C2, unless I'm missing something.
The only thing is, do you want to have it have a message all the time, or do you care if it's empty? I don't
I
care.
don't care. So we need something about the
Yes.
size,
Yeah, I mean,
but we don't need something necessarily about how often somebody changes it or how they do it or
Right.
if it's
So maybe you
blank or
just
not.
eliminate, and the changeable copy shall not be changed more than 4 times a day. Maybe just eliminate that.
That's what I'm saying, is I think probably just get rid of 2
Get
altogether.
rid of the whole
Oh, no, I
thing.
know, I don't mean get rid of it altogether. I mean just end it where it says, shall be shown at all times, period.
I'm I say get rid of it all, unless I'm missing something.
That's what I,
Matt, are we missing something?
because I don't care if they change it electronically, digitally, or mechanically, or manually. Do we care?
No,
So do you care if it's empty?
I don't care.
I don't care.
They don't have
Flashes
anything to
a
say?
new message every 30 seconds?
Can't flash, though,
Can display.
because that would be.
Display of message, but
Yeah.
it'd look like it was flashing because they're allowed to make it go as often as they want if you take away,
Yeah,
reach
although,
in
you know,
4
isn't that-
times a day.
We rotate our town sign, though, on a
It's-
rotation.
I believe that.
And that's in a different section, though,
Yeah.
also, isn't it?
But I mean, why would we preclude anybody else from rotating if we rotate?
Well, let's put it this way. What if a company decides they don't want to use that sign anymore out there? And they leave it blank all the time from here on out, and it's just an eyesore?
I think that's covered under
But that's
abandoned.
number 2. Oh, is
There's
it?
I think, a general section of abandoned signs.
Right, yeah.
But the company's still there.
Yeah, well, it was a question I had when we ever get to that. There was something about abandoned signs, and how do you figure out when a sign is abandoned?
Can we sort of put that there for possible
Sure.
dismiss,
we can talk
whatever,
about it. Just put it
termination
in
or
the-
whatever?
Put
Yeah.
it in the running tally of things that we're talking about. And then there was, so then I'm in the same section, but now at E, temporary signs. And I'm wondering, I'm trying to follow, but why do we have another temporary, why do we have another temporary sign section?
Yeah.
Well, this is for non-residential.
Okay. Did we change sections?
Yes.
Yes, from
On 104, we changed to non-residential.
Okay. Thanks.
1960 to this. Yeah.
Right, okay. So, then in E, temporary signs, 32 square feet per non-residential property. So that's 6 by 6, roughly. So, once again, it seems big to me.
It is big, especially that last sentence. During election season, one additional temporary sign per office is permitted, so you can have an 8x4.
8 by 4 election sign seems, or any sign, it just seems big. So,
Yeah.
shouldn't they be,
How big is our biggest commercial sign? What's the biggest one in town?
For like the real estate signs?
No, just, does this cover the ones on buildings? I mean, on commercial buildings?
No, this is temporary.
Oh, temporary, yeah.
the biggest ones would be, where is it? A big real estate,
Like a strip
solid.
point.
Is that where it is?
And I think Discovery Office has one also.
Yes, that's where I'm thinking of it.
Oh, like the ones down on the corner by Colton Crossing?
Yeah,
Advertising
yeah.
those empty.
Yep, exactly.
But boy,
Maybe it would be good to, if someone could just look to see how big those signs are,
Sure.
actually, because they seem like they're, I guess,
Yeah.
reasonable at that size, and if they are, I mean, it's just hard to really understand what these things really look like.
Right, yeah.
So just as an example.
Yep.
And further down that section, also it has the 8 feet thing again.
Right.
So we should probably just be uniform about
Yeah.
our heights. At least that's what I'd recommend. So anything else in that section? So my only thing was that there's the schedule of sign sizes, obviously that needs to, whatever we decided that we're going to do, that just needs to be the same in that section. So 16, 19, 80 on 108. And it's another one about just magnitude, number of signs on non-residential properties. No more than 5 signs can be erected on a non-residential, unless you have 2 corners, then you can have 10. Is that right?
Of those
Oh,
30...
no, 1 additional sign, so you could have 6. Either way, it seemed a lot on 1 lot.
Well, then it has B, the subsection B has a additional criteria for determining the number of signs.
Either way, though, you could potentially, as far as I can
Right,
tell,
yeah,
read
yeah.
this, that you could have 5 freestanding
Yeah.
signs of up to currently 10 or 15 feet. So,
And then you can have, in C, in addition to that, you can have several instructional signs on top of it.
so it's another one of those magnitude things.
Okay.
I mean, maybe we have some location in town that has an example of that, but I certainly can't think of
No,
one.
we
Usually
don't,
it's like
yeah.
1.
Right, yeah.
So another, I guess, policy discussion to have. Anything else in that section? Now going on to 16, 19, 90. So, trying to do some math, but maximum surface area of total sign. And if you had 200 feet of frontage, you could have a sign of 150 square feet. If I did that, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
10 by 15. Or multiple signs that would make up that. I'm not sure how to solve that, and I don't know why we care about the, I'm not sure why there's a lineal
For the frontage?
for the frontage, why we're calculating a sign based upon the frontage. I didn't see that, there wasn't, to me, a logical nexus between those two.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
So I'm just wondering if we can, I mean, do we really need that section at all, I guess is what I'm wondering.
Look, read number 2. On top of that, there may be up to
Yeah.
1 square foot of additional sign surface area per linear foot in
Right.
excess of 200 feet, up to a maximum of 300 square feet.
Yeah, 30 by 10. So, unless there was, I mean, I guess I would contemplate upon why that's there, but I just wonder if that needs to be there for any reason, or could just be
Right, yeah.
eliminated.
Yeah, let's look into that. Based on what we have in the preceding sections.
It seems like it's covered, doesn't it?
Right, exactly.
So, okay, anything else in that section? 16, 19, 100. 16, 19, 110. Gets to the abandoned sign thing, which I wasn't
Yeah.
sure how you ever, I'm sorry, the 16, 19, 110B, abandoned signs. How do you figure out what an abandoned sign is?
Or when it got abandoned.
Or when it got abandoned, how you got, exactly. I mean,
So I think C tries to get to that, but it might not be clear
So
it
maybe
out.
that's the, so it either needs to be the 90 days, the 45 days, or,
Right.
because it seems like they need to be the same, and if they're
Mhm.
different, then to figure out what's different about those two sections.
Okay.
I mean, the importance of maintaining the sign, I totally get at, but
Right.
these other calculations, I have no idea. $16, $19, $120, 130, 140. I had one thing about legibility. Do we care?
I
that We're
agree.
regulating legibility.
Does it cause a traffic or a hazard if somebody can't read it and they're trying to
Maybe.
read it driving by?
Yeah, it's
Maybe
like
that's what it
something-
is. I was, you know, it seems like that's a business decision. If they want to make a bad sign that nobody can read, I guess more power to them. But why are we regulating it? But maybe it's a safety issue. I don't know.
Yeah. To me, it
It's
seems a bit,
subject to interpretation.
Isn't it? That's what I would think.
Because
Yeah,
I'd have to
yeah,
say,
Yep.
that one out there for me is unreadable.
And the size
that
and-
one is distracting, I have to say.
So, but moving on into that though, so the whole thing is, you know, the size and type of lettering and the graphics used and
Yeah.
like the distance, how big these things are. Unless I'm missing something, I don't know why we care about the unusual letter construction and unfamiliar
Right.
proportions between strokes and spaces. I'm like, really?
So maybe take out that whole design standards section?
Well, that was going to be my recommendation
Yeah.
because I have no idea why we really care.
Well, in my opinion, if we're going to put this in, I think we should put in, what color the type is, because if you're, red, green, colorblind, you wouldn't be
Right.
able to see the sign out
There
there.
are some municipalities who do legislate what color the signs in their town can be.
Is that right?
Wow,
Wow.
I was just kidding.
It's for uniformity of signage.
uniformity of
rather than red,
signs.
green, colorblind.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
And with illuminating signs.
yeah. I can actually understand that better because it goes to the feel of the community. Some New England ones have them all on posts and whatever. Then I can telling you how to run your business here.
And that we really prefer horizontal signs compared to vertical signs. I mean, unless, once again, I'm missing something, I see the point.
I'd just suggest staff read it, and if there's any reason some of it should remain, then come back and tell us.
Yeah.
So you're proposing to take out C legibility all the way from 1, 2, 3, and 4?
I'm proposing design standards totally disappear, 16, 19, 140.
Yep. And the height, once again, I think hopefully is covered someplace else. That's the only one. Seems like we're talking about height in a whole bunch of different sections. Okay. Anything else in that section? 16, 19, 150, 160, 170.
I've got some on 170.
I do too. What's yours?
I think I already went over it, under 170. I have,
the three
on
square feet.
temporary signs in public right-of-way, I have
Right.
underlined public right-of-way and say, why does this differ from residential temporary? To me, maybe they should be similar, or the exact same. What's good for, in my yard on a temporary basis should probably prevail in the public right-of-way. And then 3, the surface area of the sign does not exceed 3 square feet per face. And remember, over in that other temporary thing, we said 4 square
Right,
feet.
yeah.
Right, so it should be the same.
And what is the preference for, 4, a little bit larger, or?
In- Election signs of 1.5 feet by 2 feet, which is 3 square feet, are fine. I mean, is there any reason to go larger than that in a right-of-way?
I can't imagine.
Can you think of somebody having a garage sale sign they would want to put in the public right of way, point with an arrow?
It shouldn't be any bigger than anything else, so.
An election sign, yeah.
So, and then I just, for a policy discussion, on we're one of, not every municipality allows anything in a public right-of-way. So the question is, do we want to?
Okay.
But maybe for a different day. Anything else? Let's see.
Are we to 114?
114, so 20, yep.
The top, A, elsewhere on page 104, let's
Are you
see.
in 3A, is that where
On
you're? 20?
the top of page 114, that first A, so it's
Oh, okay.
4A, 170, A, 4A. I'm going back to page 104 because...
Could you give me sections?
16, 19, 170.
Okay, go to
4A.
4A, 4, and then A, not within 50 feet of a street intersection. If you go back to 104 in that table, the setback, and some of the discussion says 3 feet. See under temporary?
Right.
On 104? Setback 3 feet?
Well, this
That's
is,
for
that's
residential.
residential.
Okay. Okay, then go to the appropriate one for commercial. Is there a setback? Or non-residential?
Okay.
I guess on setback, minimum setback, they're just not in there.
They're for commercial?
Yeah,
Non-residential?
I'm looking on my page 108,
Uh-huh, yeah,
the table,
yeah.
under temporary, go to the fourth column over where it says NA. That's the setback.
You want to add something?
No, I don't quite want to add it yet.
Okay.
But somewhere okay, not within, this on 114 says not within 50 feet of a street intersection.
Right.
I found during the election, 50 feet is ridiculously long. I mean, 50 feet.
Well, they can be within 50 feet, but they have to be, the top of the
Smaller.
sign can't be more than 2.5 feet above the ground.
But this says, and the top of the sign is located.
Well, look at B. Then allows you to be within 50 feet, but
Okay.
different height requirement.
So your little election sign
Oh,
can be in the
Can be-
50
it
feet.
can be
of-
closer.
5 feet of it, okay.
It can be right in the
Flush with the
corner,
ground.
because it's not above 2.5 feet.
well, I would change the, get rid of the semicolon and. I would say not within 50 feet of a street intersection when the top of the sign is more than 3.5 feet above the ground. I would change the wording of that and make that much easier to read. So not within 50 feet of a street intersection when the top of the sign is more than 3.5 feet above the ground.
So basically, you just combine the two, A and B, into one?
No.
No, because it's.
She's
Oh,
changing
okay.
the word "and" to "when."
Well, it does that, though, Matt. If I preclude, so it can't be within 50 feet, when it's more, it implies that it can be closer if it's under 3.5 feet. So it does combine them.
Yeah, you don't need B
Yeah.
necessarily.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Who would have thought there was so much about signs?
Oh, that brings us to 20 general development standards. So my only question is, why is it in this order? It seems like general, seems like that would be a beginning of something, isn't it? Why do we, once again, I don't really care, but it seems like you start from the general and go to the specific. So if it, I just leave this to your best discretion, but if you think it would go someplace else.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just flipping through there to see what this section is.
Let's see, so 16, 20, 10. Had something in 3C. So it has to do with the 300 feet between non-residential and single-family detached. And I might have missed it, but is that between lot lines or between building surfaces?
I'm sorry, what section?
16, 20, 10, 3C, my page 115.
Mm-hmm.
How do you measure what that distance is? Because I'm sure that will come. That's something that actually will come up. I'm certain. So is it between buildings?
It's between buildings. This issue came up when we did the Calmonte development.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we need to be? Should we put that in there so it's
Yeah,
crystal
just to be a
clear?
little more clear. I think it'd probably be a good idea to include additional language.
Anything else in that section?
One more down, D, item number 2, it said cited end to end, no more than 2 structures. So D says, for all multifamily developments with more than one building, the building shall not be cited end to end, right? And then it goes no more than 2 structures. So does it mean they can't be cited end to end, or there can't be more than 2 structures cited end to end?
No more than 2 structures cited end to end.
So we should probably just make that easier to read.
Okay.
No more than 2 structures may be cited end to end,
Right.
just so it's clear. Same thing probably in number
Yeah,
1 above
in
that
number
too.
1.
No more than 2 structures may be cited parallel. Anything else in that section? 16, 20, 20. So my only question about this one is on my page 117, which would be C, general lighting requirements that apply to 1620 30 through 1620 60. That seems like a really odd way of talking about what's going to happen in the further down in the code.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why would that be in a? So general multifamily non-residential architectural design criteria. We're talking about lighting, and then it goes to 50 is commercial office
Right,
space. I
yeah.
mean, it either needs to be. We either need a general lighting section
Right.
that talks about this in generality, or each section needs to reference something. But
These
you don't want to put that
specifically
within.
it, right?
Yeah, you don't want to put something talking about commercial in a multifamily architectural design, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, we could just create another section with lighting standards that applies to these.
And that was
Yeah.
that was sort of my. Do we have a lighting standard table for all zoning districts?
Yes, I mean, with the allowable foot candles and those type of things.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they're specific to each. They're
see
specific
it,
to
right.
each type of development.
Multifamily, right,
Yeah.
so we could probably just get rid of that if each section talks about the illumination.
Yeah, the purpose of this section was to try to implement some of the dark sky.
Which I totally agree with.
Concept stuff, but we could just,
So I'd either have a
Wrap
section,
those in.
21 lighting,
Right.
under the guidelines, and these are the lighting criteria, or in each section you have to specify.
okay,
So, and I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but
okay.
Can we go back to page 116 at the very top of the page, number 9, ridgeline view protection? Deb, that's, oh, are you with us?
What section, 16, 20,
10,
10?
go way down to where it says 6, 7, 8, 9. You have it? Okay, ridgeline view protection. All new development applications are required to submit view impact analysis reports from all those vantage points. McCaslin, US 36, Colton. Then the last sentence, these reports shall address views related to the Rocky Mountain backdrop, ridge lines, and views to these developments from these vantage points and streets. So it seems like the impact has to say from the development to those views, and then from the views back to the development?
I think
What was
this
that last
I think
clause?
what this was trying to get to, and I'm not sure how, if it needs to be restructured, is that
Yeah,
you didn't want to interfere with view corridors on the top of a ridge.
and my guess.
When you're standing on the ridge
When
and you're
you're-
looking back?
When you're
Or
standing, when you're
when you're
standing
standing
at
in
your
your
house
yard.
or someplace
Yeah.
else and trying to see the
Right.
mountains, you don't.
Yeah,
want
that's
them
what I
obstructed.
thought it was until that last clause was there. These reports shall address views related to the Rocky Mountain backdrop, ridge lines, but, and that last part, and views to these developments from these vantage points, and then, and streets. That last part makes no sense to me.
I think the vantage points are the McCaslin Boulevard, US 36, Colton Road.
But
Community
it's
Park.
in views to these developments from these vantage
I
points
mean,
and
we could
streets.
reword that.
So you're
Clear.
standing on the vantage point or street and looking back into the development.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do we care about that?
Because you want to be able to make sure that you see through the development to the mountains.
No. What I'm saying is it appears to say you've got to protect the view corridor from your development up to those pretty things. But then it seems at the end to say you've also got to protect it from the pretty sites, the ridge lines, the mountains, or wherever, back to the development. And that's the part I didn't get.
So why don't you look at it,
Yeah,
just to make sure that the,
yeah, well,
And I think it's just asking for a report,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily protection, but that's part of the report
Part of the-
that's being generated.
right, part of the,
Yeah, but I don't think we should even put the burden on anybody to worry about what happens if you're standing,
At McCaslin.
at McCaslin and you're looking into Rock Creek. Why do we care if your view is impeded looking into Rock Creek?
I mean, this section's in there just to protect the ridge line.
Well, I
mean,
like-
So we can reword it so it's very clear.
I say get rid of the whole last sentence. If you got rid of these reports shall address views onward, isn't the need covered? Because they have to submit view impact analysis reports to or from applicable.
I guess it just,
I wouldn't say the or from. I don't like the or from. I said two applicable important vantage points.
Wait a minute, I'm reading it completely different.
I obviously.
Here's how I'm reading it.
Okay.
Because I'm flashing back to something when we did an OSAC, when we did a trying to determine what open space parcels that had a viewpoint from and to. And so I'm reading this as when there's a development, you can see to McCaslin, US 36 Colton Road, Community Park, Purple Park, that you can, I don't even know how to explain it, but what I am viewing is that you can see there and you can see from there and back. In other words, if you're on the ridge line and you can see the development, and you're at the development and you can see the ridge line, I think it matters. I think the viewpoint either way matters.
Doesn't to me, and nor does it matter to me that I can see McCaslin or I can see 36 or I can see Colton Road. It matters to me, ridge lines, Flatirons, Community Park, the park views, yes, but as I read it, it even matters. I would even word it more if our goal is the first three words, ridgeline view protection.
Yeah,
I think this needs to be reworded.
The example was Superior Park Professional Center, when that came through as a planned development. One of the bigger concerns with that development was that it didn't break that ridge line.
Right. I think
And
that,
we showed different points from east of that development, looking up to make sure that the two stories didn't break that ridge line. So I think that's what this section
I think that has
is trying to get to.
great merit, but McCaslin, 36 Colton, and to and from?
I think
Well, if you
what-
can see from one direction, you should be able to see from the,
I
coming back
think
the
what
other
it
way.
does is it puts value to the actual point, the point the vantage point. So when I was talking about the open space properties, it put value on not just the property itself and the views that that property has, but vice versa, the developments that can see that property. Does that explain it better?
Well, I know the value is from the development and not obstructing view corridors. That's obvious, and that is what we want to protect. But do I care if I'm standing on top of some high spot on a trail? Do I care if I can see the development? I don't. Nor do I care if I can see the busy roads. So to me, the ridgeline view protection part of this it has great merit, but the rest of it doesn't, to me, have merit. So if I'm in the minority, I'm in the minority, but
actually, I agree with you.
Yeah. I think if you can see it from the development, you can see
Right.
the ridgeline, you're going to be able to see
yeah.
it back.
Well, for example, on Remington, and if I recall the debate on that going in between Sagamore and Original Town, was Remington to the west of Original Town? I keep getting those directions
Yes.
mixed up. Depending on what roof line we allowed, we might impede views of Original Town homes to the mountains.
Right.
And that has all kinds of merit.
Like the fire department when they wanted to build the
Yeah.
Tower.
training facility,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Right.
a good example.
Yeah.
Right. So I think maybe we need to rework that.
Okay.
So, actually, I'm going to throw one more little monkey wrench in here. So what are the views? Is it just the mountains that you care about, or is there something else? Because I remember when we were discussing these properties, we discussed what is the view you're looking at that you don't want to impede? Is it the mountains? Is it the downtown Denver? Is it the entire east quarter that you can see at some point. So I think you have to determine what views you're discussing. And I know it says Rocky Mountain backdrop, but there's ridge lines, there's other ridge lines that have views to other picturesque views. Like if you were standing on the Ridge 2 property, and you can see from there downtown Denver buildings, and somebody builds on level 3, now you can't see that anymore, and that was your view.
Well, this isn't saying you can't do it. This is saying you just have to submit the impact analysis report. And so...
But based on that, this doesn't necessarily just mean the Rocky Mountains. It also means other ridge lines. I'm trying to make a case for this to keep it in,
Right.
because I remember this wording.
I'm not saying delete it. I'm saying it needs to be reworked.
Maybe.
Because frankly, if I had a view to Purple Park and somebody, if I lived in a gated community right there as it looks into Purple Park, a couple of those houses right there, and somebody wanted to put some cellular tower right outside my window or something like that, or something that was a bit obstructive, I might, be concerned about that.
Let's take a
Yeah.
shot at revising the language, because we'll have a chance to look at it in the first reading and then make changes at the public hearing if we want.
Okay. So 16, 20, 40, I think is where we're at. So here's the lighting thing. So I'll have just some general questions because it applies to different sections throughout here, but there's the lighting standards. I assume that some lighting engineer has looked at this. I have no idea what these things would mean. The 2.5-foot candle, is that a lot, is that a little? I have no idea.
It's a little, it's minimal light.
Okay.
And Fred, I wasn't able to make the meeting tonight, but he's the one that has gone through these, and he's a...
Okay, that's fine. So just so long as somebody has looked at this, because unless somebody else here on the board knows what these things would mean, it means nothing to me, unfortunately. So, and also in this section, maybe it's in, there's this figure 4 minimum landscape treatment. And I'm trying to understand what that figure is trying to tell me.
Yeah, there's a lot of these figures that are in here that we could probably just delete because they're outdated.
It seems like it. I mean, I don't. So unless the figure is important to somebody, I don't know what.
He was just trying to give a visual of so much will be grasses, so much will be trees, shrubbery,
Right.
mulch.
Which also then gets to me, should we have to have this in every single section,
Right.
or have a general section talking about landscaping? And do
I
we
would
want to
recommend-
do we want to repeat the landscaping thing in every single section, or can we just have a separate section that's talking about landscaping?
We do have that separate section. It goes on and on
On
about
and on,
land.
exactly.
Oh,
And
my
so
gosh.
there's sometimes
No
it's in
kidding.
here, and sometimes it's someplace
Right,
else.
I agree.
So I think we need to either put it in everywhere or take it out and have one section that you can refer back to somehow.
Okay.
And going to the on and on section, I'm like, does that, it also doesn't mean anything to me when I look at the 1.8 or whatever, or the 18 trees per linear feet. I mean, is that good, bad? I have absolutely no idea. So I'm hoping that a
Well,
landscape person has actually looked at
In
this. And
item 3, treatment of setbacks, right above that graphic, when it gets into the subjectives, this layout will create variety in the facades and interesting open spaces. The landscape buffers required shall include a variety of coniferous and deciduous trees. I'm like, aren't we a bit specific here?
I mean, we want any development to look good.
Right.
but
Right.
Doesn't,
Right.
Doesn't really mean anything to me, and I'm not sure it means much to
Right.
anybody, really.
Right.
So that would be sort of the bigger policy thing if we just want to take it out of these sections and have another, sort of like lighting.
I
Here's the
would
lighting, here are the lighting requirements for everything, here's the landscape requirements for everything.
I would either take it out, or I would actually enlarge it so you can actually read it and make sense of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
But I would take it out of this section.
yeah, that would be my recommendation.
If we can go to item 1A under open space, the same section 40, at the very beginning on page 118. A, site development, 1, open space, A. I was actually sort of alarmed to see that open space may include pedestrian pavements and plazas, and any parking lot island greater than 400 square feet contributes to open space measurement, the measurement of open space. So a parking lot contributes to your
Island.
open.
Island,
Grassy
the
island.
landscaped part of the
Oh.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Parking lot, okay. Operative word, island, thank you.
Anything else in 16, 20, 40? $50. $60.
Oh, Lisa had something on 123,
123,
3 under rooftops.
3
How is
rooftops.
roof-mounted mechanical equipment shall be minimized, eliminated, enforced?
Well, there's several stages. The first is through the plan approval process, and then the building permit process to ensure that it conforms with what was approved by the town, and then the construction oversight once the building starts to go up to make it sure it confers with the building permit plans.
Okay. So 60, it's the same thing, just about lighting. We have a whole new thing about lighting in this
Right.
section too, so. 70,
Joe had a comment on number 10 there. That was an incomplete sentence.
sidewalk. Yes, it is. But, actually, do we need, all of them are there? Oh. No, yeah, so it's gotta be. Sidewalk works are required, maybe, as opposed to as required. See, did we
What
get?
section was that?
16, 20, 70, number 10.
Page
Oh, okay.
126.
All right. Oh, yeah, I have it circled.
Should just be, must be separated from the following, or?
Right.
And Lisa has something about who owns or maintains the strip between the road and the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's the property owner, each individual property owner, similar to maintaining your sidewalk.
Okay. Because I think there's areas in Rock Creek where Cocal is mowing
Really?
in that area. I don't know if that's because of a residual about the districts or whatever.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that. But typically, it's the property owner and things like that. I
Mhm.
think that's true.
Okay. 16, 20, 70, 80. And then 16, 20, 110, this all goes back to my questions about why do we have landscaping everywhere else and here?
I have similar problems with organization. If you look down to 16, under there, you go to A, then you go to B, and it says general requirements. The following requirements shall apply to all development except lots for single-family detached residential uses. It seems to me that should be the governing clause at the outside. General, on the main
Yep.
bold-faced head, general requirements, except for SFDR, single-family detached residential. That should be announced way up there.
And B, then plant material, yep. I agree.
So does that mean that this doesn't apply to nowhere in here does this apply to single-family detached residence?
I guess we can do our own thing.
Well, there's something in here also about, in the table, though, there's single-family residential. So,
Bless you.
so it doesn't really make any sense when you say it doesn't apply, and then we have a table that says there's requirements.
Yeah, I'll check on that. What included.
So one thing I didn't see in here was, what about the species of plants that residents can have, but then also what about them encroaching on your neighbor's property? Can we enforce that, or is that strictly the HOA?
So it's just another.
And specifically for cottonwood trees that grow over, but also their root systems that overtake multiple lots.
Assume if it's in your, I think if it's in your property, you own it.
So if you have a tree, it's well within the property, but the root system goes into the neighbor's property and overtakes their yard, like the suckers that pop up from the roots. How is that enforced?
I don't know if it can be. I mean, short of you, the affected person digging up their roots and having the tree die, I suppose. I don't know. Unless you have some other thoughts.
No, I don't, usually neighbor to neighbor, not through the municipality.
So that would have to be enforced strictly through the HOA then? If
If they had covenants
I don't know that it
regarding
would be an issue enforceable through your covenants, rather than an issue as a property owner owning the property and somebody else's tree is invading your property.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you
So-
understand what I'm
Not
getting
really.
the difference? I'm not sure that it's something that you could call up the HOA and say, hey, their tree roots are, or you could call up the city code enforcement and say, hey, their tree roots are invading my property and this is the damage it's doing, rather than you as an individual going and telling your neighbor, I own this property and your tree is coming onto my property. You need to either do something to move the tree,
Right.
and it's not anything that you would bring a third party like the HOA or the municipality.
And the property owner would be in their right, correct me if I'm wrong, to
Trim.
trim those branches
Right.
to the fence line or dig up the roots. And
Well, if the root system continuously overtakes the neighbor's yard and you continuously grind them up at a cost to you, but
Right, yeah.
it's the neighbor's tree that's causing it, it seems
And
like...
I would think that that would be an individual property owner's problem and not the town's or the HOA's,
Okay.
is I guess what I'm trying to express.
Okay.
And
I mean, they could take them to,
small claims.
small claims court or something like that, but it'd be between the two property owners.
Okay, so nothing, it would not be in the municipal
No,
code? Okay.
No.
In that same section, so in the landscape density table,
Yes.
that, once again, hopefully Fred or somebody's looked at this, because I have no idea if these are good, bad, or indifferent, but the parking.
Yeah, I mean, Fred's looked at them, and our park staff and the
Okay.
park have both looked at these.
Great. There's parking lot islands less than 820 square feet. Everything has a unit except for that, which just says one. So it should be,
Oh, right,
there
yeah.
should be some unit attached to that.
Right, yeah, yeah.
On that same table, under the leftmost column, landscape area, where it says open space landscape requirements, and you go across and it says single-family residential trees, does that mean the open space surrounding the town-owned open space surrounding a single-family residential? You can only have one per 825 square feet? What does that open space landscape requirements mean?
So those are the quantities of trees and shrubs per square footage that are
In-
required.
In my yard?
No, no.
The open space for
Like-
single-family residential development.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, if,
Okay, okay. So it actually is open space?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Go above that to that number 2, the minimum landscape treatment of planting areas shall be drought-tolerant lawn, native grasses, no less than 75% of the ground plane within the planting area covered by living plant materials. To me, that is not consistent with xeriscape. If we actually want to encourage less use of water and more xeriscape, that 75% seems to be
Think it should
quite
be-
high.
Lower.
I think it should be way lower. But I'm not somebody who knows what it should be, needs to comment on that.
Well, drought-tolerant
yeah.
and native grasses are typically thought of as xeriscape because they're drought-tolerant, so they don't need a lot of water, and then
But-
because they're native, they're used to the changing conditions.
Yeah, but my neighbors who are going to this are actually doing quite a bit of rock, and they certainly don't meet the 75% of living plant materials. I mean, that's quite high. It basically says those yards that are xeriscaped, I'm thinking of a particular part of town, they're pretty xeriscape with a lot of rock, a lot of gravel or whatever, pebbles and whatnot, and they have the occasional plant or whatever. They're not meeting this.
Well, is that single family though?
Yeah, they are single-family. Is that not what this
Yes.
pertains to?
So 1 and 2.
Oh, except
don't
lots
include
for single-family
right, yeah.
detached residential. Well, but I would speak to it anyway, because I thought as a community, especially as water gets in shorter and shorter supply, in our open spaces and public spaces, et cetera, we feel that xeriscape with less than 75% coverage of living materials is preferred over 75% requirement for living materials. For example, when we talk about doing xeriscaped corners as an alternative to the $100,000 we're paying for annuals,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean,
So it seems
they would
high
have
to me.
have Covered by, that area would have to have 75% of it covered with drought tolerant.
Right. I'm just, anybody else think that's high?
Well,
Wanna stay at
I think what you
75?
want to make sure that you don't just pave over everything
Right,
Put rocks.
right.
or
think
put
it's
rocks in
xeriscape.
100% and call it
Right.
It's not
xeriscape.
xeroscape, it's
Yeah, right.
xeriscape.
Right, exactly.
But 75, I think, in current definitions of xeriscape is probably high. It seems to me this may have been written when xeriscape was very new. Just
You
thought
could
I'd throw it out
probably-
there.
So is it needed, if that table applies, is that section needed?
Yeah.
What that section is doing is calling for drought tolerant and native
That's-
shrubs.
see, that's what we're trying to
rather
get-
than a number per.
Right, it seems like that's what we're trying to get to. So we should, either is encouraged or whatever, just to, zero-escape landscaping is encouraged or whatever, and just leave it like that.
Right.
But we want to make sure that we're not saying that you can just pour concrete in your yard
Right.
and call it a wrap.
I bet Juanita will have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
On page 129, we have all those definitions under that table, which struck me as somewhat odd because we've gotten rid of definitions pretty much throughout the book and put them in the definition section.
Right.
But that I can handle. But when you go down to number 7, and you have such specific requirements as 2/3 of all plantings shall be coniferous, to me, we are really micromanaging here. Again, just a thought, we don't have to decide on it tonight, but
No, I think you're right. I mean, the town is actually getting rid of some, I think we're getting more deciduous trees just as a policy, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure that that should be in there anyway.
Okay.
See, we're still on 162110. $21.20. $30.
where are we now?
1621.30.
Um, So we'll take the same view of all these photos in here? For example, on page 133, figure 6?
They seem silly to me.
Yeah, we're going to go
Yeah.
through and
Unless there's something
Take a
that
look
just,
at those, but
unless
we'll
there's,
probably get
unless
rid
there's
of-
something that you just can't describe in words any other way,
right.
probably doesn't make sense to have somebody's hand drawing of it.
Yeah.
Right.
30, 40, 50, and then we're on 22. And it seems like a hedge is landscaping to me, but it's important for that to be a separate section then, so be it.
yeah.
So 2210, 2220, 30, 40, Article 23, 10, 20, 30, Article 24. So I had a question about this in the parking space requirements. All residential units, 4 more bedrooms have to have 3.5 spaces per unit. Does that include a driveway, or do you actually, everybody have to have a 4-car garage if you have 4 bedrooms?
Well, typically on, yeah, that includes driveway. We've always considered driveway as parking.
So, okay. And I wasn't sure why all was under parking space requirements, use all residential units, if you see where that is, in A. What's the,
Right?
isn't it residential, and then the next section is non-residential? So I'm not sure why we have all.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Just delete that.
So Oh, 2410. Oh, I did have one. So this is 2410A. It's still in that same, it's on the next page, but in that same category. I just had a question. So wholesale businesses and warehouses, one space for every 1,000 square feet of floor area, or, you know, certain number of employees. And I was just wondering, how does this compare to Costco and Target?
That's a good question.
Because I think we all think that we think there's overparked.
there, yeah. So we'll look at that and give
So I
that
think-
information to
I
you.
think we're trying to get rid of asphalt when possible.
Okay.
And then in 12 of that section, traffic aisle schedules. I was trying to understand the minimum width of traffic aisle Schedule A, feet and width of a traffic aisle. Aren't we just talking about the width of the traffic aisle, and what would be the difference between those things? They're all zero anyway under width, and I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to get at. I mean, basically, you want a bigger traffic aisle if you're moving two directions, and it matters whether or not how you're parked. But the difference between feet and width,
Well, it could just be
I'm not
a
sure what that is.
formatting
so maybe it's
issue there.
right. Maybe it's just a formatting thing. So,
Yeah.
but if someone could just look at that. Mm. 2420. Here we're getting to landscaping again. 2430 parking area landscaping. We have these figures. Once again, seems like the landscaping should be in one section.
Mm-hmm.
And 2440.
Just general question, Matt. Numerous times, auto care center service stations and convenience stores are broken out. Why is that?
I'm sorry.
On 162440, this has happened now, I think, at least two other times earlier, where auto care center service stations and convenience stores are broken out from everything else. And I'm wondering why. Why do we
I think,
pinpoint those?
I think because of the intensity that they have. If
Yeah,
you take
it's-
like 7-Eleven
Oh.
and its gas station, it has a lot more intensity than a general retailer.
That is an auto care center like a Brakes Plus? And they have the same intensity as a gas station? Really? Okay. Okay.
40, 50, 60, and that brings us to Article 25. Once again, it's just my request that hopefully an engineer has looked at this grading requirements. They don't mean a whole much to me.
Yeah, actually, our previous Public Works Director and our current have looked at these sections.
Okay. So 2510, 20, 30, Article 26, I guess. 10, 20, 30, 40, let's see, in 40, this is, sorry, I'm trying to subsection four. Requirements for preparation of erosion and sediment control plans. A. Shall be prepared in accordance to hereof urban drainage and flood control, volume number 3, best management practices. What if we have volume number 4?
Yeah, it should say most current.
Yeah. So in that section, which goes on.
On page 159 is where Lisa
Okay.
asks a question.
3C. How prompt is prompt? The prompt removal of all soil, miscellaneous debris, or other, basically needs to be removed at the determination of the manager. I don't know if you need to say what prompt is.
Were we too boring?
So I don't,
Yeah, prompt removal.
We could say immediate. That says now.
during grading operation of the permit, you should be responsible for, well, you can't remove them immediately.
Yeah.
Well, if
We
it's a
could-
public, actually, if it's a public hazard, it is immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It at least connotes they better get to it.
Okay. I think,
That makes sense.
okay. So I think that brings us to 162650. So all this drainage and stormwater within Coal Creek, I'm not sure why we're referencing a certain report, and then I think we're doing a Coal Creek master drainage study right now anyway, so, and why do we care if it's different between Rock Creek and Coal Creek?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I referenced in a specific report.
So I'd either eliminate it or make it up to date.
Okay.
And then 162660,
And that's, okay, go ahead.
are you in 50 or 60?
I'm in actually 70 where they start using this BMP.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
right there,
that's
I'm
the
right there
same
with you.
question.
So they use, and I couldn't find this definition, SWMP, I assume it's a stormwater master plan, but I don't think that's defined anywhere. Unless, I tried to find it
If you
someplace,
look at the
but,
title, it's Construction Stormwater Management Plan. So maybe what we can just put behind Stormwater Management Plan, SWMP.
sure, great. Just so that we have identified what that it is somewhere.
Yeah.
And what's a BMP?
I couldn't find that anywhere.
Best management
Yeah.
practices.
It usually is, but it doesn't make sense in this category. So BMP is, so I think we put that back in, but the owner shall maintain improved SWMP on site at all times and shall be prepared to respond to maintenance of the specific BMP. Does that,
No, that doesn't make sense.
doesn't really make sense. And you should inspect all BMPs every 14 days. Like, huh? So they must be,
Yeah.
they must be
Something
meaning
else?
something else, and I couldn't even grasp at what they were
Erosion
trying.
control measures, I think, is what they're probably
Yeah, so we,
getting to there. So
yeah, so
we'll update
don't use
those
BMP and
knowledge, yeah.
use
Which-
something else because it could be confused for best management
Right.
practices.
We might consider adding, after the glossary, list of abbreviations, so that when you get disjointed here, you're on page 3 after it said SWMP, that you can refer to someplace and figure that out. And here we have CDPHE.
Right.
I think that one might have been defined someplace, but
Curiously, we had a definition for best management practices
that we deleted.
that we deleted. That
Right.
included parens, BMPs.
Right.
So we need to have, because there's
Yeah.
other sections where we talked about best management practices, but this
Right.
looks like a facility or a construction thing, so this must mean something different.
And we define CDPHE in the definition. So, yeah, we'll take a look at that. And
Yeah.
where we need to, we'll add.
Okay, so that brings us to 80 and 90, also all about that BMP business.
Right.
100, Article 27. '28. And now we're missed something because it was 28, and now we're at 30.
Yeah, so-
a numbering issue, I guess.
29 is, we deleted the whole article on floodways and floodplain because
Use it for someplace else.
we're required to follow.
Right. FEMA and everybody else.
Right, yeah,
So this is just a numbering thing then. So.
right, yeah.
So my question in mobile homes is, should we allow a mobile home in a non-mobile home park, or do we have to?
You mean that first sentence there?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
163010, number 1, or just in general.
Aren't they in original town? And that's not a mobile home park?
It is not a mobile home.
That's not a mobile home
But there
park.
are mobile homes there.
And there are mobile homes there.
They were there before this.
Before
current
this,
code
so
was
they,
adopted.
so they're legally non-conforming.
Exactly. So, yeah, the question, so they could take out one of those, but the current code requires that they bring a new one in, it has to meet these specifications.
Right, have to put them on a foundation
Right.
so they don't blow away.
Right.
But wasn't your question, do we want to allow that
So,
elsewhere?
yeah, the bigger one is, do you want a mobile home in a non-mobile home park? It doesn't seem like that makes any sense to me whatsoever, but,
Well, other
Maybe
than
we have
those
them.
grandfathered in.
right. So they'd be legally non-conforming, but.
I don't think we do. In other words, as these die a natural,
Mobile home death?
do we want, right now, we're allowing other ones to come in,
Mm-hmm.
right, into original town. And
Right,
they-
but they gotta be on a foundation and have a pitched roof and have some type of siding and they can they have to be they can only be a certain minimum width. You couldn't bring a single wide mobile home in.
Do we have a separate section for, what's the, it's not a mobile home, but it's a,
Manufactured home?
yeah. Is
I think so.
that considered a mobile home?
No.
Do we treat a manufactured home differently from any other residential home?
No, typically because they already meet
Okay.
the requirements that are in here.
So from my mind, I inhaled the chip. Happy to have a mobile home park, but I don't think it makes sense to have them anyplace else. I got a drink,
I would
sorry.
agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that, too. So would this be rewritten to say that they individual platted lots in districts other than R-MH zone
Are not allowed?
are not allowed, yeah. Or prohibited? And there is no following criteria? Or is there somewhere in another code that actually already says that?
So you're looking to revise this so they aren't even allowed in the medium, right? So, yeah. we're
Other
gonna
than a
have to
mobile
be-
home?
Other than a
Right.
mobile
Park.
home park.
Right.
in the future. In other words, we're not saying
So,
get rid
yeah,
of what's
we
here.
would revise that sentence to say, in districts other than a mobile home park, must conform to these requirements.
But she said,
No.
if they must be in a mobile home park, why would you say anything except they're disallowed anywhere except in a mobile home park?
And get rid of the requirements. Yeah,
And have the requirements be in the mobile home park
And these are, the
section.
yeah.
right, yeah. Okay.
So I'm just going to bring up, George is going to be unhappy. So
Yep,
this is the
definitely.
George unhappiness clause right here.
On the next page?
No, the
No,
mobile homes.
that's-
He wants to have mobile homes because he wants to move them in and out, and so.
Well, I actually have, that's why I'm a
We
little
don't need
slow
to
here.
decide, I mean,
On number 2, on page 164, at the top of 164, I do have a problem, actually, with in established, grandfathered in areas. We understand that mobile homes are obsolescent. They have a shorter life. I do have a problem with adding this permanent engineered perimeter foundation in areas that heretofore have not required them, unless somebody can convince me why that's good public policy or anything. But when I'm looking at 4th Street, in original town, all those mobile homes that are there, are most of them not on concrete foundations right
Yeah.
now? And
Most
so,
of them are not.
and many of them are quite old.
Correct.
So if they should ever be replaced, we're now putting that requirement for a permanent foundation under those on 4th Street. And I guess I
They're
do.
not the RMH zone.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah. But given the unique character of that area, I'm not sure that
I guess this would be, well, we should understand what the policy here is. I understand it, at least from my perspective, is that you don't want why did the tornadoes always hit the mobile home park in Oklahoma? Because they're always devastated. That this gives them some structural integrity and safety associated with it if it's on a foundation, because the tornado's not hitting the mobile home park. They're just not well
Yeah.
designed.
in all probability, it's not going to make a heck of a lot of difference. It's going to be torn up anyway, whether or not it's secured on a foundation or if it's, I'm from Kansas. Mobile home parks never survive.
They never survive, right?
Because they're mobile home parks, and they're not, this is designed to make those mobile homes that are not in mobile home parks less mobile. It's designed to make them a little bit more, have more structural
Yeah,
integrity.
but the mobile home parks I am familiar with, I don't know that I've ever been around a mobile home park that doesn't require the foundation. Most of them have the foundation. I think that's been the standard for many years.
Well, most of the mobile home
I'm
parks
talking-
used to put on, I mean, they're on blocks and with tie downs.
Uh-huh.
Right, I don't think most mobile home parks should have foundations in them. They have a series of.
There's concrete pad,
And then they,
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
but
maybe.
maybe not,
Yeah,
not
They
a
have blocks
foundation.
underneath,
Right,
on top
right.
of the pads that the
Yeah,
mobile
Right.
home sits on.
That's why we, in our code, we have big sections about hurricane hangers and how they have to be designed on the house so they can withstand wind and all that stuff, and they have to be tied to the
Right.
foundation, so.
Right. Well, but what you just said, if typical would be a concrete pad in other communities, why
For
are...
mobile home parks.
yeah.
Right, but we have a unique situation in original town, how that isn't it parts of Fourth and parts of Second that are the mobile home areas there generally?
There was one on,
Um,
here on First and William or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a good-sized number on, just on
Thinking of
the
Douglas.
west side of Ford. Yeah.
In Douglas, yeah, that's where I am, yeah.
This, we
I
this is
think
one of
that-
those
It's
things
a
that
touchy subject because there are other homes in there that, I mean, would the majority say they want a mobile home next to them when they didn't before?
I don't think.
Yeah.
But that's
Can't
what
we
we,
just let the homes that are there, the mobile homes there, that are not, they want to replace it, just replace it with another mobile home? And since they're grandfathered in anyway, they wanted to update it without
Under
requiring the
the
foundation?
current code, you couldn't, but I mean, you could revise the language to allow that.
Are they currently on pads or no? Is there a cement pad there?
I don't know if they're on.
I don't know if
Some
that
of
makes a
them are
difference,
just
though.
like on these blocks.
Yeah,
I mean, some could just be on dirt.
just on dirt.
Yeah.
They seem inherently unsafe given the winds that we have here.
right. Well, I'm here to tell you that a mobile home is inherently unsafe.
I agree.
And,
And not for the resident and for the people next door to them.
right. And so, I mean, we've got that as the existing situation, so we're not going to change that fundamentally. So the question, it almost becomes a case of economic hardship. I'm assuming that it's not an insubstantial cost to put down a permanent engineered perimeter foundation.
I think what they would do for that price that you would build a house.
Right. So that then becomes the honesty of this policy. Is that what we're saying, is we want to make it
Well, I don't know.
economically?
That's how, I think that's what this policy would
Economically
do.
disadvantageous for you to replace your mobile home with another mobile home, and then we actually get into a policy issue that I think we just got to be honest when we address. I think that really does go to economic hardship of a person then not having a place to live until they leave that, either do this or go rent somewhere else or buy somewhere else, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm assuming they are probably making a reason to live in that kind of dwelling for a reason.
I think most of these are being rented out by somebody else. So
Yep.
they're not, there's not really necessarily an economic hardship in that, from that perspective. I mean, maybe the people that can afford to live there can only afford to live there, but that's more of an affordable housing question than
I guess what I'm saying is I would like to have that discussed outside the context of Chapter 16 as a policy discussion.
Well, we'll have to do it a little bit in terms of, I mean, we can do it separately on top of this as well, but we have to address it in the Section 16 anyway.
We can identify it.
Identify, yeah,
Yeah.
certainly. Highlight it, that is an
Yeah.
issue. And I know that this would be, it's politically unpopular with some people, but it really is a public safety issue at the end of the day.
Yeah, but somebody's going to have to convince me that permanent engineered perimeter foundations are standard anywhere and how they add to the safety
Sure.
of a mobile home in high winds or tornadoes or, totally adverse weather. Without that, it seems pretty arbitrary here to me, so.
Yep. Looks like there's maybe the National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act might have some information about it, so, but we should reference that.
So how are we leaving this, Matt?
We'll provide some information for you on the safety question and then highlight it as a potential discussion item for the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, 1630, 10, 20, 30, 40,
Yeah.
50, 60, 70, 80.
I've got 80A there. There shall be at least 2.5 off-street parking spaces for each mobile home unit. Again, this is within the park. Where is our park?
We don't have them. This is if somebody proposed,
Oh,
bought some land and was proposing to
no.
construct a park.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is just statutory mobile home park language?
Well, it's not statutory, but it's
That we'd have it in there.
industry
'cause-
standard.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I mean, if you look around at the town, where would you possibly be able to put one in? It's hard to identify where you ever could, but,
But you still feel we need to have it in here?
well, I mean, we've done that, there's nothing in town that's going to be anything different besides planned developments. All of these things don't really apply,
Oh,
so,
okay.
I mean, I'd be surprised. I mean, we have some, I guess,
It's a property.
So
two
Six
properties
street.
that have
Yeah.
Properties.
BC, yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
some have, but otherwise, I mean, the 99% of everything else is PD.
Hey, Matt, going back to that permanent engineered perimeter foundation, if you could also get us an idea of the cost of that?
Yeah.
Of putting one in for whatever your standard size trailer is, where you should say no less than 24 feet wide and 36 feet in length, or whatever industry standard average unit is.
We've got one going in right over here. Probably
Yeah.
give you the-
Yes, we do. So, which brings me actually to a question: is that addressed in this?
What's that?
The trailering in a house from someplace else? We basically don't
yes,
want that to
it
happen
is.
someplace
It is.
again.
I forget what section it is, but I'll identify it for you where it states.
If you're moving, we're happy for you to move
Moving
something in.
structures, it's under.
Here's the
temporary-
permits
it's under
that you have to do.
temporary Structures, yeah.
Okay. So we want to make sure that that, once again, never happens again. Let's see, where did we get to? 90, 100, 110, 120. So I had a question just about that. 120B, the sewer service connection, yada, 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 sewer riser pipe. Shouldn't this just be in the design standards of the Metropolitan District?
Yeah, let me check. We'll have to check verify.
Because we have, a million drawings in
Right,
that
yeah.
about what you have to do for sewer connections and this, that, and the other thing, so
Right.
if it's
yeah.
duplication, we don't.
If it's duplication, we can just take it out.
Yeah. Okay. 130. So I highlighted all of that, and it has to do with disposal and recycling within a mobile home park, if I'm following where we're at right now.
Right.
Shouldn't it be the same? Shouldn't it be uniform throughout town, and why do we identify it here and no place else?
Yeah, because anything that comes in is going to be connected to the system.
Well, this has to do with recycling, and the containers have to be X size, and they have to have a lid on them and screened. But why do we have that
Yeah,
only in a
yeah,
mobile
I'm not
home
sure
park
why.
and not in multifamily? And
Yeah.
shouldn't it be all the same?
And where's the application if they're all on the sewer system? Aren't they?
Right. So, I'm not sure why this section's in there.
So, I mean, I think it's an important thing to have.
Right.
We encourage recycling, and we want things screened. But why it's only identified in a mobile home park, I don't know why.
Yep.
Let's see, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, we're back to the landscaping thing.
Oh, Lisa has a question.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Common facilities and uses, 1630-160. 20% seems less than others. Is that appropriate?
Hang on. Common-
Yeah, typically what we have is, typically the minimum's around 30%, 30 to 40%. Open space requirement.
Although it's kind of a funny thing, then you get laundry facilities.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of a
Bingo.
weird. Right, exactly. Bingo hall. So, I guess, look at that. It would make sense. 1630-190 doesn't make any sense unless I'm missing something.
163190?
Because we just said you can't have a tie-down, you need to be on a structurally engineered foundation.
Well, this is
Or is
specific
this
to
someplace
mobile
else?
home parks, though.
Remember that first section was just for mobile homes that were
Outside.
not located
Thank you.
within the mobile home
Yeah.
park or district.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm going to be devil's advocate here. If you're requiring it elsewhere in
Shouldn't it be
town,
here?
why shouldn't it be here?
Because in the areas that are not designated for mobile home use or mobile home placement, you want it to look as much like a permanent residence as it possibly can. And by putting a foundation in, by requiring certain types of siding, certain plantings, you're making it look less like a mobile home and more like a permanent structure. Whereas the mobile home park, you want some mobility with the homes. Some will want mobility, some won't want mobility.
So it's not safety, it's more the image.
It's both, because in areas where it's residential, typical single-family residential, you do have safety issues if you've got mobile homes that are not secured by a foundation, making it more
Right.
like that next-door neighbor, which is a single-family home or a manufactured home.
Well, as I go down South Boulder Road, not South Boulder,
93.
Broadway.
no, but via Appia to South Boulder,
Yeah.
there,
Oh, okay.
in a residential district
Ah.
in Louisville, there's that mobile home
Mobile home
park.
park.
So if a tornado comes and gets it, it's going to be dangerous for the surrounding single-family homes.
Yep.
And I would bet they're not on manufactured,
Engineered foundations.
permanent engineered perimeter foundation. So I understand what you're saying, but I guess it makes me less inclined to suggest that on 4th Street up here, we need those, unless we actually do a whole reworking of that area and try to make it into a different image of a residential area. Or if we're committed to those safety considerations, then we obviously need to have it here for the
Well,
same
this doesn't
safety.
apply to that area, though.
I know, but
Yeah.
if I come and propose a 100-unit mobile home park that's on the periphery of a residential area, I'd want to make it equally as safe as up there.
So I wonder if the base, though, I mean, I suspect none of them have these concrete footings. They're placed on piers.
Yeah, you're.
If I'm not correct, maybe I'm wrong, but isn't the concept of a mobile home park one that you can move from park to park? I mean, isn't that why they were
It's a
put
less
into
permanent.
existence? Yeah.
Although if you ever look, basically the only time they ever move is when they fall apart and then you move a new one in. It's not like they're driving around the country with their
Yeah.
mobile home.
A lot of times
Really huge RV.
they'll sell the mobile home
Yeah.
along with this,
With the lot.
and just leave
Or
it there.
sometimes they just sell the lot, they
Right.
take the mobile home and
Move in elsewhere.
I don't know that we have to get extremely picky about 163190, because it's probably never going to apply. But my point is, as it relates to the other we need to be on solid ground as to what it is we're trying to achieve.
And you might want to look at the intent of the person. You know, mobile homes are not real property until you pull the tag, place it on a foundation, and make it real property. There's an actual legal procedure to make a mobile home from personal property to real property.
And
And I'm
placing it on
guessing
that
that
permanent
those-
foundation
I think
makes
that's
that
part
transition?
of it is, mhm.
Okay. That's why I think that has to, if we're doing a review of that whole area, I think we just need to do the review of it and not sort of piecemeal ourselves into pieces and parts.
Okay. Let's see. We were in 190, 200, 210. Article, whatever the appropriate number is. I think it's not 31, but
Yeah, it'll be 30 now. And we'll,
just along
when we
with it.
bring that forward, we'll renumber all that.
Yeah, and so that also is on the same page as what's to follow.
Yeah, exactly.
So anything about swimming pools?
Lisa's question is, a pool count as part of the open space / open land requirement?
It does in the mobile home park. I don't know if it does anyplace else. I think it would be, the only place you would have it is in multi-family.
Right, yeah.
So,
And I-
is it
I
identified there?
believe it is, but I'll verify that.
Okay. 32.
Lisa's also asking there, under telecommunications, where are power lines covered?
We cover them under
Well, I mean-
there's utilities someplace, isn't there?
Yeah, everything, any new developments required underground utilities. I don't know if that's what she's asking. It's- Power lines covered. I might follow up with her on that. And
Yeah, well, we just need to make sure that it's identified, but that clearly is the intent for anything new, that all utilities are underground, so.
Yeah.
On the next page, under 163220, towers, approval required. Towers are prohibited in residential and open space natural districts. I found that to be sort of strange, that the implication, can they be in open space green areas? Why are we specifically saying open space natural districts?
Well, we wanted to keep them out of, you want to preserve those areas as much as possible to their natural habitat.
Right, but do you
and-
say they can't be in Purple Park anywhere here?
And it doesn't specifically state it in here.
And actually, there's a application to put it in community park.
Right.
Yeah, and this is confusing. Any tower located within 250 feet of any property zone for residential use shall be set back from each property line 1 foot of distance for every 1 foot of tower height,
Right.
plus an additional 10 feet. But it's prohibited in residential.
Right, so this would be in a commercial property or someplace else that would be adjacent to a
What this
residential.
says.
Or it would be community park, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
So how tall is the tower?
42 feet.
But we should probably not talk about any pending applications. You're going to have a hearing on that pending application, and you can
Right.
talk about it then. Tonight is
Okay.
to work through.
Yeah.
So if you have a tower that's 60 feet, it's going to be 70 feet.
Has to be 70
set.
feet, right.
Setback, yeah. As
So,
an example.
so basically it would have to be at least 300 feet from a residential property,
No.
roughly.
No, it says if it's located within
Within
250,
250
then the
feet.
tower height is the
Is shorter.
operative measurement.
Plus
So
10.
plus 10,
Plus
tower height plus 10.
Okay. Oh, I'm working backwards. Okay, work forward. I get it.
But if we feel we can put them in parks, or, I'm wondering why we're singling out open space natural districts, and either not precluding them in all open space or allowing them in all open space
Well,
pending their merits.
I think the thought was that we want to preserve the natural open space habitat as much to its existing state, thanks, as it is. So.
As opposed to open space that is green grass.
Right.
Versus
You have a
open
park,
space
you
that
have-
is prairie.
Okay, now you've got to understand, I live south of Colton, and all we have is natural draws and
Open space
open
natural.
space,
Yeah,
open
but
space
it's not-
natural. But it's not open space Verhe or open space,
But those
Anything.
are,
But,
you know,
but
those are
that's not
not-
that zoning, though.
They're not zoned to open space natural, OSN.
Right.
well, if we're talking about things that are zoned open space natural, OSN, then this should be caps, OSN, all capital letters, districts.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's generic open space natural.
sounds fair.
That sounds fair to me, too.
I think,
However,
I think we have a definition of that somewhere.
We do.
it's open space that's not manicured.
So then also the open space recreation zone district caps.
After open space defined undeveloped land.
I actually still have an intellectual debate with open space natural prohibitions because I don't see it destroying any open space natural to have the very occasional tower situated in it, but Deb may disagree.
I don't think that we can. We have to look at the ballot language of what the funds are used for, but I don't think it allows
It's-
for anything
oh, it
except
may
for
be.
like
Okay.
trails and
Well,
something else.
Trails.
if that's it, then,
Trails.
And views.
then we have no
But
debate.
there are towers in open space natural.
Well, there's certain
Lands.
things that
Our-
are exempt from local regulations like Excel towers and.
Yeah, there's something that in that property that they have an easement through our open space because they were there before.
Well, and there's also a cell tower in Boulder County open space. It's on the corner, 128, Highway 128 and McCaslin.
Right, between McCaslin and Indiana, yeah.
That's
No,
that's
Boulder
That's
County.
Jefferson County.
that's in Jefferson.
That's Jefferson
Yeah,
County,
it's-
all right.
yeah,
Well-
it's, I think in CDOT right away.
Yeah.
Oh, is it
Yeah,
really?
yeah, they had to get a state permit for that.
Okay.
So 20, 30, 40, 50.
163250? Yeah, Lisa had a question there. What was D before? Is the 15-foot height more or less than past?
D before.
That was an addition.
I think it's just an addition. Right? There's no deletion in there, so that's just additional
Yeah, it's,
restriction.
that's correct, it's an addition. Yep.
Let's see, where are we at? 60, 70, Article 33, 10, 20, 30.
Under 30, denial of a special use permit, I'm saying, why is this here under bed and breakfast establishments?
Right, all special use permits should be dealt with the same way.
Right, yeah.
And why would we just have it in that one section? I agree, unless I'm missing something. Uh, 176, Article 34. See, Lisa had a question. Is there a similar series for marijuana businesses?
No, you said you do not
We said
want
we don't want
marijuana
them.
businesses in town.
Yeah, so the answer is yes, in a way. Can't have them. Because the state gave us that opportunity. 35.
I'm sorry, so we don't have to say that in here anywhere, that we're...
You already have passed an ordinance saying we're prohibiting medical marijuana centers, infused product manufacturing, and grow operations.
Okay.
Article 35. Why do we have this? Is that something the state requires us to have, or what? I don't understand the need to have this section at all. Or what we're trying to protect or do, or...
I will find out if there's a legal reason.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's all...
If maybe there's a requirement in statute that
Sure.
you have to have this.
Yeah, and if we do, fantastic, but otherwise it seems like, what's the point? Article 36, just in general. Anybody? And we're done. Okay. So, just in terms of process, thank you everybody for going through this.
If I might go
Yes.
to just 2 pages back on
Yeah.
that thing of deleted
Where are you at?
pages, at very end, go to 180, the very end of the code. And then I had some Xeroxes of deleted items. Did anybody else have those?
Oh, and things that were changed or something? That one?
It says deletions, looks like this.
Big.
I don't, I
Did your
didn't,
regular copy not show it in the body crossed out?
well,
And maybe your word processor then just lumped them all like footnotes?
I didn't print this out, somebody
No,
gave
we-
this to
Oh,
me.
this is the section in the back?
Yeah, the
After
section in the back
180?
after 180.
Deleted, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go 2 pages into that. On the top, on the part I'm saying is page 9, it says page 93, 2 deleted. I did note this on that page in the code where we eliminated the definition of local, minor collector, minor arterial,
Right,
major
yeah.
arterial freeway, and I actually thought it would be more helpful to keep those definitions in there.
I think it's deleted because it's in the,
It's in the town's
Design-
roadway and
roadway
design
design standard criteria.
It's adopted by the board.
Okay, so I'd have to go back to where it was deleted here to see if it was referenced, if these names were used in any part of that code where it might have referred to local.
They
collector, that
The
kind of thing.
sections in here specifically reference the design criteria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okey-doke, that's
There
all
was
then.
one last thing that Lisa had on here.
Uh-huh.
We didn't cover that, did we? I remember we had this discussion, though. Superior Development Application Standards, number 10. I'd like minimum mailing of 50 or so, and maybe a sign-on stuff that is generally passed by.
Is she talking about notices?
But I'm not sure, I don't know where, yeah, that's
So
what I
we
thought it
have
was.
this someplace.
Yeah, we
was like the very-
addressed that in
This one?
16.2
Yeah, and the-
dash whatever,
the
16-2
change, I
dash.
mean, there was a minimum of 50 or 1,000 feet.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, thank you once again for all the time reading this, how shall I say, tedious, but important. So I don't know, the last time we did this, I don't remember doing it any time recently. So, a whole review, so it's good. So in terms of process, when do you think that the first reading would come back? You have a lot of work to
We
do.
have it for the 25th.
Okay.
But that would just be on consent like we typically do and then the public hearing would be that following meeting.
I would imagine that since there's so many things that we probably wouldn't put it on the consent, we might as well just talk about
Okay.
it,
All right,
you know,
yeah.
because I don't know how many items you're up to that you're going to work on, but it seems like there's a fair number.
There's a number of them, yeah.
And I suspect this might take more than 2 readings to get through. But
Yeah.
Once again, there's no big crisis, so we can spend the time that we need to.
Okay, so
Unless
we
there's
might
something that you're
push
aware-
it to the first meeting in November. We'll have to look to see what's on the agenda so that we're not overloaded. But
Sounds good. Thank you. Anything else? You don't have anything else for this evening, did you?
no,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Call it a wrap.